Hi, I'm Terry Murphy for the Women's Wisdom Network, Senior Editor at Realty Times, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate in the Men's Room with Murph. Tonight, I have an amazing dynamic duo that's going to give us some information about realtors and finance and what's available to them. I want to introduce Rick DeLuca. We all know who Rick is. He was famous and infamous with certified residential specialist designations, one of our top teachers. Starting way back in '76 as a realtor, and now the proud regional owner of Exit Realty in about every state on the West Coast. Just teasing. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you, Jerry. Good to see you.
Yeah, you know what? I just love having you back here on Realty Times. It's just, it's like great paths just crossed. And his partner today is Todd Lindsay. He is a pioneer actually in the structured finance industry, founding, and how many companies did we find? I mean, I think I lost count.
A few.
110. Yeah, the companies have targeted commercial and residential real estate, both performing and non-performing. I love the fact that you have a background in aircraft, franchise, and small business lending sectors. That makes you perfect for the real estate industry. And I know that you also manage and own companies in education, manufacturing, agriculture, energy, food service, fitness, real estate. And the only thing I think you've missed is Botox. But welcome to Realty Times. Well, the reason we got together is Rick and I did a program earlier on Devon's Destiny, and we got to talking about the PPP program. And if you know anything about that, it is a process where the government is helping us during this time. And Rick, I'd like you to speak to how you got involved with A10 Capital and what we're doing with that to help realtors and sole proprietors.
Yeah, Jerry, it's about 5 weeks ago. It was brought to my attention by one of my co-regional owners, Max in Montana, about the ability for the small business person, the real estate agent, to get some forgivable loans. And, quite honestly, I think my reaction was like most people, Todd, in that I was a bit skeptical. What do you mean forgivable loans, right? And so I delved into it, and then I watched several Zoom calls with Max and Todd, and then I began to hear some success stories, and quite a few success stories, how people being agents, were approved in 24, 48 hours, and within 1 week they had money show up in their bank account. And so I looked at it pretty seriously and said, this is, I said, I salute the government. I'm not a big fan of giving money away, but I salute the government because they seem to have said, you know what, we're going to emphasize something different here. We're not going to delve the money out to the big institutions. First we want the little business person to be taken care of too, because we've been hammered pretty hard with this COVID thing. And so after I, researched it and felt very comfortable, I just brought the attention to the region, the 5 states here that I own. And we've had about 200 of our agents that have applied and been funded for these forgivable loans. And, they put the money to good use. Some of them have bought a new car because they need a new car. Some of them have just kind of helped pay off the loans they took to get through the tough times last year when COVID really hit us hard.
We couldn't do what we do, which was be with people and show properties.
Yeah.
It was a very, very bizarre time. It did force us to get a bit digital, but in the meantime, real estate was pretty locked down from February, March, and April into June, and it depends on the state that you're in as well. I think you can speak to that.
Yeah. In the West, we're probably hit harder than most part of the country. We're still in lockdown, until the middle of June. And so anyway, I've been more than pleased. I mean, I get text messages, no exaggerating, probably 3-4 times a week from people that I've just told, people in Florida that I told about, and not just Exit people, Remax people, and Keller Williams people, Coldwell Banker people, saying, geez, thanks for telling me about this. $20,833 showed up in my account today. And I'm going, God, man, this is really good. So my intention, everybody needs to know about this. Everybody, all the small business people need to know about it.
And that just speaks to how you always give back, because you've always done that well. And then you start working with Todd, and Todd figures out that it's a bit complicated and a lot of people don't understand it. And knowing his amazing streamlining style, you two coupled, and tell us what happened from there, Todd.
Well, it's been a fabulous partnership for us. The PPP program, which started last March, and to Rick's point, many, probably almost all real estate agents probably thought they weren't eligible for the program. There's a number of reasons for that. When the program was first started, it wasn't targeted at big business, but it was targeted at bigger small businesses who had banking relationships, accounting relationships, and things like that. And the fee structure that we worked under last year for all of 2020 really disincentivized the lending community from making loans to sole proprietorships, which most real estate agents are. So therefore, very few of them had access. The capacity of the system, we made 6 million loans in round numbers, was completely utilized by bigger small businesses. And when I say a real estate agent would inquire to a bank or a lending institution about getting some of this Paycheck Protection Program money, they were generally told something along the lines of maybe later, only businesses with employees qualify, some version of the truth that wasn't really accurate, because for most of last year, real estate agents actually were eligible for the program, but a typical lender would have lost a couple $1,000s making a loan to a sole proprietor, given their cost structure at the bank. So, as we worked through the year last year, and then in December, the previous administration extended the PPP program. That's what we're working with right now, to pay the lenders differently. We all received a flat fee or a minimum fee, which made doing loans to sole proprietors profitable for the banks and other lenders. So that was a big first step. But they also, in that change, allowed the people in 2020 to get a second loan. So all of the customers that we got last year were eligible for another loan. So what did we do for the first half of 2021's program? Well, we made loans to those people. And we still weren't really looking to do too much business with anybody else at that point, because again, that same group of people was taking all the capacity out of the system. The new administration, the Biden administration, had an exclusive 2-week period where the lenders could only make small loans. And it was during that time that we really transitioned away from doing these bigger small business loans to sole proprietors. In the United States, there's about 32 million businesses. 23 million of them are sole proprietors without employees.
That's impressive.
So it's a vast majority of our businesses are sole proprietorships. Probably around 65 or 70% of the unit volume that we've done has gone to non-sole proprietor, bigger businesses in the PPP program. 90+% of the funding has gone to those businesses. So now we start focusing on these smaller businesses. So I reached out to Max Coleman, who's an associate with Rick, and we put together this partnership. One of the other goals of the PPP program was to get to women and minority-owned businesses. So we were trying to figure out what should we do to do that. And we thought, well, the real estate community would be ideal for us to do that. The other big issue that with the PPP is fraud. So we were trying to avoid any kind of mass outreach. We built our business strictly on referrals here. But because of demand from the sole proprietors, we were just getting inundated with phone calls, people going to our website to try to get loans. Half of our applications were fraudulent. So our strategy was to go to Rick and his team and figure out a way to clean up the pipeline of business. And it did it overnight. We went from 50% fraud to less than 5% fraud. It made processing loans much easier for us. We're dealing with professionals with licenses, which was great. People who understood the lending process quite a bit. So when we were asking them to provide us with stuff, they understood its importance. They knew how to upload documents, sign DocuSigns, do all kinds of things that lots of people don't know how to do. And so it's been a wonderful partnership for us. We've done, I haven't looked today, we're probably over 9,000 real estate agents that we've done in this partnership in 5 weeks, which for us is an awful lot of loan volume. And it's just growing and growing and growing. So it's been a fabulous relationship for us.
So I want to be clear, you don't have to be from, you're in Boise, Idaho. You don't have to be in Vegas. You don't have to be, you can be anywhere, and they can submit this obviously online. I understand that you made it a little simpler for the submission process. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, when you're doing this many, like I said, we've done over 20,000 of these things. You've got to streamline the process. The government has also been working with the lending community to streamline it. So it is a pretty simple process. There's 5 documents that we really need to go from tip to tail in the process for a real estate agent. We've customized our requests for sole proprietors, which includes real estate agents, to strip away a lot of the other things that we need when we're doing a loan for a big or small business. So that's simplified it. And if you want me to just kind of touch on what those things are.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
So, and every lender is a little different. We think our process, although we may ask for a little bit more upfront, we think it streamlines the process and makes it more efficient over time, over the entire time. But we ask for a 2019 filed tax return with all attachments. And that's the critical document for calculating loan amounts. Now, borrowers can also use a 2020 filed tax return or to be filed tax return. If they want to use that, and the reason they would was because they may get a larger loan amount using 2020 numbers than 2019. But if they do that, we ask that they give us a to be filed Schedule C off their tax return along with that filed 2019 tax return and a driver's license. That's all we need to do the loan. Then they would gather that information and upload that onto their computer. Now, because 99% of the people that apply with us ultimately get funded, we also start gathering funding information up front. So we need 3 documents to fund the loan. We need a wire instructions from the bank, a voided check, and a bank statement from the account that the customer would like the money to go into. So we also ask for that information up front so we have it and we're ready to go, because sometimes we've done loans as fast as and we've funded loans in 48 hours. So if we have all that stuff, we can get it all the way through the process. Typically, it takes 7 to 10 days to go through of the ebbs and flows of approvals from the SBA and sending documents back and forth between us and our customers. But it's those 5 things are all we really need to get the process done, all the way through. And there's a 5-minute application process. Some people take 15 minutes to get through it. Very simple, basic information. You just go through the portal site that I think has been provided to the folks that are watching the show. And you just follow the instructions. There's some instruction sheets and other things. You go through that, 15 minutes, and upload your documents. And 7 to 10 days later, you'll get funded. The most you can get as a sole proprietor per loan is $20,833, but about 72% of real estate agents are eligible for 2 loans in this program. So they could potentially get $41,666. Many of them do. On average, our average real estate agent is getting $30,000. And maybe now is a good time to touch on the program, generally the terms of the program. There are no fees that anybody has to pay. There's some scams on the internet that just don't pay any attention to them, but there are no fees for borrowers in this program. There's no personal guarantees. There's no collateral. We don't pull credit reports. It's federally tax-free and tax-free in most states. Like I said, many borrowers are eligible for a couple of loans. There are no payments when the loan is ultimately forgiven. And I guess I need to back up and go through that too. But 99.9% of the loans in this program are forgiven. The only ones that aren't involve fraud. But if you get your loan forgiven within 14 months, which is easily doable, there are no payments. I went over the maximum loan amounts. But how is the loan forgiven? Well, for sole proprietors, including real estate agents, it's really simple. You have to accept our wire. That's the main thing. I try to make it as basic as possible. Accept the wire into the account that you normally do business in, whether that's a personal account, a business account, or whatever, and tell us the truth. If you do those 2 things, you're set. There's really nothing else you need to do that's outside the law. You do have to retain your tax records for 3 years, which is the IRS's requirement. And then the ultimate final piece of forgiveness occurs probably in about 6 months. We're working through the process with the SBA. They have forgiven millions of loans so far, but they are simplifying the process for this 3rd round. You get a 1-page application that says you paid yourself and you told us the truth, and you sign your name, and that's it.
Now,
They
Rick,
have 90 days to turn. It's a really stream at this point. The SBA, the Treasury Department, have worked very, very hard at making this a very easy program for the lenders and the borrowers to access and get the benefit for.
And I know that Rick, because of his big heart, has also come up with a streamlining process to make it simple. Rick, tell us about the website that you built to make this basically seamless.
Yeah, it came about as a result, Terry, of, as I said, having done seminars for, 20 some years all over the country. And I know quite a few people. And so I reached out to people personally, in West Palm Beach, Florida, up in Seattle, and down in Orange County, and just told them about it. And the reaction is similar to my reaction. What? You got to be kidding me. I just get some free money. They're going to give me free money. And so I said, what, let's make this thing as simple as possible. So I had a website guy that I've used for years. And I said last week, let's get a landing page here, have frequently asked questions, have the application on there, have a short video, make it real simple for people. And so we do have that. The site address is PPP Money for You. And that's FORYOU. So PPPmoneyforyou.com. And all the Q&A is there. It's just such a simple process. And I want to say this, you and I, Terry, been around a long time in this business, and there's a lot of credible people, but it's just really heartwarming. That sounds corny, but to have someone like Todd in his company, that he's being very humble. He's been on the inside of this thing. He's helped design this for the government, and his emphasis is to help primarily to help women, which is, as 2/3 of our industry, right? And minorities. And he's really sincere in that. And so many lenders only want the big guys. They want the big guns with the big fees. And here's the guy who's got, I think Todd's got 20 people working 7 days a week, umpteen hours a day to process all these loans to get the money into the agent's hands quickly and with the least amount of inconvenience.
And that helps everybody. I mean, obviously, Todd, you've streamlined it so it empowers your group to do the best services and obviously the fraud affects everybody. Everybody that's listening to this gets impacted by somebody who's fraudulent. So thank you very much for your efforts on that. And of course, working with Rick, who is a spokesperson for our real estate industry and highly respected, gives you also that celebrity authority. So between the two of you, this is a tremendous opportunity. And who wins? Everybody, because those people spend that money in their local communities and it funds everybody. So this goes way beyond your knowing. If somebody wanted more information, would you just want to repeat that website again?
Yeah, it's PPP Money for You. So MONEYFORYOU, PPPmoneyforyou.com. And just a real simple landing page. And it pretty much answers all the questions people might have.
Now, Todd, we're recording this in April, and I know that you both are involved heavily, and we didn't go into all of that with your introduction, but it'll be there, that you're working with the government on maybe extending the deadlines on this so there's more opportunity for agents to avail themselves of this opportunity.
Yeah, and we worked, it was set to terminate March 31st of this year. And with Rick's group and a number of other real estate people, we did a political outreach starting sort of at the beginning of March to get the extension in place, which now goes to May 31st, or until the money runs out. And there's some question as to how long the money will last. The government does report to us every week how much has been spent, but there's some real questions as to what is actually left. Right now, we're pretty comfortable that there's maybe 30 days left. When we model it, we think it gets to the May 31st, which is now the official deadline, thanks to the political outreach of the real estate community primarily, to be honest. So now we're trying to get another extension, and we're trying to narrow the funding down to sole proprietorships or micro businesses, which are less than 10 employees. And the reason for that is, like I mentioned earlier, the penetration into the bigger small business has been outstanding, but it's been terrible for the smallest of our businesses. So the argument that we're making is simply a fairness argument, is that, hey, we need to reach out to these smaller businesses. We need the time to do that because they've been told they're not eligible. So we have to unwind whatever was happening before. So we need some time and we need a little bit more money. So they're going to end up spending almost $900 billion on the PPP. We're asking right now that they consider some incremental funding, 50 to 100 billion more, even less would go a long way. And then extend the time for 6 months, which would go till November 30th, because we think it just takes that much time for us to get to those 23 million small businesses. And the actual math of it is simple. The bigger small businesses by May 31st will have had 300 days of access to the PPP. The sole proprietors have really only had 100 days of access at when we get to May 31st. So it's a 3-to-1 advantage in time. And even if we were to incrementally fund enough to where we could really penetrate the small sole proprietorships, the bigger small businesses will garner 85 to 90% of the money in the program. So it takes a very small amount of incremental funding. And I agree with Rick, I don't like wasting money. But to me, this isn't a waste of money. This is putting the money in the smallest business people's hands. And it's just strictly a matter of fairness. The argument against it right now is that, well, everything's going to be fine if we just open up the economy.
Not for the small guy.
No, it's not going to be fine. I live in Boise, Idaho, which is probably the best economy in the United States. We never got over 5% unemployment here probably during the entire pandemic. We've been pretty open the whole time, but I would say that we're functioning somewhere around 60% of full go here. So I can only imagine what it's like in the rest of the country. I don't think it's as good as what I'm experiencing here, and this place is not opened yet, and it's going to take months for people to reacclimate to coming back to work. As you mentioned, we own and operate a lot of different kinds of businesses and have thousands of employees. And so we know what it's going to take to get all of these different kinds of businesses open and running. And it is not as easy as people think. It's not flipping a switch. So the money that will go into these sole proprietors' hands will help them. It'll help their local economies because they're going to they're going to get the money and they're going to spend it on their businesses, on themselves, and they're going to promote growth at the local level. And I think it's really an important thing that we do this to assure that we come out of this thing, because not coming out of this will not be good.
And we know that entrepreneurship is the backbone of the US. I mean, there are more women in the business. And I personally, as the founder of the Women's Wisdom Network, appreciate the focus on women and women-owned businesses. It's a tough time out there. And if our government can finally help us out, Rick, I agree with you. We just have to get the word out. You've done a spectacular job. Thankfully, you've already had a level of celebrity authority in the real estate business, and trust, which allows people to understand that. And then you bring in a high integrity lender like A10 Capital, and then the magic happens. Yeah. We can only do what we can do. And our goal here is to spread the word. Realty Times is a resource to a huge number of people for over 25 years. So the good news is we've got Todd in one corner, we've got Rick in the other, we've got the government helping us out. We just have to get the word out. Don't you agree?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And Terry, there is just a bit of urgency because, as Todd's kind of explained, that we don't really know when it's going to end. And from what I understand, what Todd said in the past, if someone has an application in and then the government says that's it, it's over, they lose out. Is that correct, Todd?
Yeah, so the way it works is once we submit the loans to the SBA for their approval, once we have an approval number from them, you're good.
Okay. So let's get cooking.
Yeah, so that's the critical thing. And if you give us all of your information, most of the time we will have a number from the SBA in about 48 hours or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. But then you have your number, and that's just a matter of getting it funded. The other issue that we've discussed before is this whole concept of the second loan eligibility, which 70+% of the real estate agents are actually eligible for 2 loans. There's timing involved with that too. You have to get your first loan funded first, and you've got to wait 5 to 7 days and apply for your second loan. So, you're talking about, a 14 to 20 day process to get both your loans. So that's what really creates a sense of urgency for 70% of the people that we're talking to today. Like I said, I'm pretty comfortable that we got about 30 days of runway, but strange things happen when you get to the end of these things. There's a rush to the door.
Yes.
especially for free money.
And
So-
that's why we're trying to get that word out.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you that this can help all of us, elevating communities, elevating families, and industries. We know that there's food, shelter, and clothing, and we're responsible for the shelters. We want that to happen. Thank you
Yeah.
for all the seamlessness that you brought to this process. And Rick, I really appreciate personally that you put the website together. There's only 5 pieces of paper and 15 minutes of your time. You ought to get on it right away. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's right. And Terry, you know what? I think just like you've taken seriously get the word out, as have I. I think the individual real estate agent has an obligation too to get the word out. I remember telling you the last time we chatted that when I got my haircut 3 weeks ago, I told the gal and about the PPP and that she was eligible, and she turned around and told the other girls in her salon, and they all applied for a loan. So I think we have an obligation to spread the word to all the small business people we know, let them get the benefit too, because everybody's being hurt by what's going on.
And your hair looks marvelous, and you've helped out the whole hairdresser. Thank you so much. A10 Capital, Todd, people may never meet you, but you've been absolutely spectacular to supporting people and entrepreneurs everywhere. Great way to end it, Rick. Make sure you go to that website, ppmoneyforyou.com. I'm Terry Murphy with the Women's Wisdom Network. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have an update on this. Get out there and make those applications and spread the word in your community. Thanks for joining us.